All right, good. So if you have, hopefully, again, you're picking up these tools that were given to you. The Cultivating Intimacy tool, we'll talk a little bit more about that today. And then also the two other tools we're going to introduce to you today in this relationship series. Now, I can't say that all the stuff in this series is fresh with me, or excuse me, as far as it's not all mine originally. Danny Silk in his Define the Relationship series, and some of his material out of the Culture of Honor, and then also out of his book Practicing Honor. A lot of this stuff comes from that. So these tools are actually his tools that come out of his material. So we want to thank Danny for that. But as we move through, we want to make this our own, and so we're putting our own things with it. But I want to just kind of review a little bit about where we've been over the last couple of weeks. The first week we gathered together, we began with this concept, with this idea that our perceptions of others matter. Would you agree with that? Would you agree that our perceptions of others matter? What we think about them actually will begin to define even my actions or my inactivity towards them, right? I'll either draw close to them or I'll either avoid them, right? Have you ever been in a store before and you had something, you had a perception of someone and you saw them kind of out of the side of your eye going through the grocery store and you saw that they're about to come down the same aisle you were going to come down, so you avoided that aisle? Ever been there before? I have. I've done it. I have to admit that I've done that. I'm thinking, man, I don't even know if I want to talk to them right now, you know? Luckily, I'm not going to, good for me, I'm not going to tell you who that is or who those people are, but I do. I struggle sometimes in relationships, wanting to connect in the right way to people, or maybe I'm too self-centric at that moment. I'm just thinking about myself, or maybe I'm in a self-protection place where it's even dangerous for me emotionally to connect with somebody because I've got something I have to work through with someone. But the idea is this: our perceptions of others matter. And so what we discovered was it's vital for us in relationships to carry the perceptions of God for people. And let the perceptions of God for people trump even our experiences with them. And if we can carry the perception of God for people, then I'm always thinking about them from His perspective, which means that I'm thinking about their value. I'm not thinking about what they might have done to me, how they've hurt me, whether I like them, whether they smell, whether, I'm not thinking about those things. I'm thinking about how God values them. Because God sees them from the place of design, from the place of destiny, right? God sees them from that. So we discovered that our perceptions of others matter, and we need to look at what God believes about them. We're looking to see what God says to be true about them. And that's the perceptions that we're longing for and we're trying to get, right? And then our value on them increases beyond the circumstances around them. Okay? All right, do you remember that? Then we also looked at this. We looked at the idea that the goal of relationship is connection. We looked at that last week. The goal of relationship is connection. So whether we have relationships with our workmates, or whether we have relationships with our neighbors or our family members, brothers, sisters, mom, dad, significant others, husband and wives, brothers, sisters, sons, daughters, friends, whatever that is, the goal of relationship is always connection. And so if we keep connection in front of us, this connection that we're protecting, it's connection. It's our ability to connect that is going to keep the relationship moving forward in a healthy way. If I lose my ability to connect with you, the relationship it's at the beginning of dying. If I lose my ability to connect with you, the relationship is beginning to die. And so in order to have life in the relationship, we have to fuel the relationship. And we're going to do that with connection, right? So it's our choice. My choice for connection with you is my choice to keep the relationship alive. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Makes sense? Okay. So here's the deal. We choose love, right? We learned that last week. You know that around here. You guys love really well. But we choose love. Love isn't something that we fall into. We had a clip last week where Danny said, love isn't like a hole in the street that you fall into. Love is a choice that we make. I don't choose to it doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen because it's, love is not the one more level of like. I don't choose to like. Like is kind of that thing where it kind of just happens to me. I feel it. I either like you or I don't like you. I like that about you, I don't like that about you. I either like that smell, I don't like that smell. I like that taste, I don't like that taste. I don't control that. That's not something I control, but my love I choose. It's in my control. I'm in control of my love. You're in control of your love. Now here's the deal. And this was kind of rocket science for some of us. That means I'm not in control of your love. I'm in control of my love. It's the same way we can take that idea of love and we can put the word honor there. It's the same thing. I'm in control of my honor. I'm not in control of your honor to me, but I'm in control of mine. And that's called self-control. And it's one of the attributes of God. He's in perfect control of himself. And we, being made in his image, have the capacity to be in perfect control of ourselves. But the interesting thing is, that doesn't mean that God's in control of me. It doesn't mean I'm in control of God. Although we try to control God. We try to make him in our image. We try to have him do what we want to do. And we think that he's trying to control us, and he's trying to make us do things, and he's trying to, you understand, this thing. It's really a big thing if you have enough courage to go uncap that well, or take the lid off that box on the idea, is God in control, and if so, what is he in control of? See, self-control means that I'm in perfect control of myself, and I am not controlling you. See, love doesn't control you. You're in control of your love. Probably raised more questions than it answered. But you see, but here's the deal. When we think about this, see, and we also talked one more thing about last week. We either choose in relationship, no matter what relationships we're in, we either choose connection, or we choose, what's the word? Remember the word from last week? Distance. That's right. We either choose connection or we choose distance. We're choosing one or the other at any given time. The deal is this, here's where it gets tricky. The one that I choose, I begin to defend. So Danny made a comment last week in that video and it's actually on our website. If you go to, it's on our Facebook account. So if you go to One Community Church's Facebook, which I encourage you all to do, you should go there. There's lots of good stuff on there. But if you go to the Facebook account, you'll see the videos, and the video that we showed last week is on there. And Danny was talking about we choose either connection or we choose distance. And then we begin to defend whichever one we chose. Whichever one we chose. And if in the relationship you choose distance, there's nothing the other person can do. Because they're not in control of your choice. The other person may want to choose connection to you, but everything that they do, you have decided that you have chosen distance, and so everything that they do, you're looking for a reason why you've chosen distance. You're trying to ratify the distance choice. Does that make sense? And so, again, the goal of relationship is what? Connection. Let's say it together. Connection. So, let me say it. The goal of relationship is connection. Good. The goal of relationship is connection. So, if I'm choosing connection, it must mean I want the relationship. If I'm not choosing connection, I'm choosing distance, it must mean I don't want the relationship. And I'm not giving you the reason why we might choose not to have a relationship. It could be for a variety of reasons. Probably it's because I've been hurt by someone in that relationship. I've been hurt by that relationship. And so I'm in a self-protection mode. And so I'm thinking I have to protect my heart because the other person isn't. But that's the beauty about love. See, love is I'm protecting the other's heart. I want to know what's going on in that other person's heart. And because I want a relationship, I'm choosing connection, I'm listening, I'm asking questions, I'm engaged in this relationship in order for them to feel safe with me. For their heart to feel safe with me. Okay? So, this heart-to-heart relationship is right at the center of relationship, of this connection process. See, if there's not an intimate connection, then it isn't love. You're choosing something else. It's not love, it's something twisted. So the pillar of love is rooted in fearlessness. And in fact of the matter, it's interesting, that whole idea that fear, in 1 John 4, love casts out fear because fear has to do with punishment. But fear also can displace love. So if we allow fear to reign in a relationship, it's going to have the natural trajectory of the other beginning to disconnect and choosing distance because they're wanting to protect their heart. Because they don't feel safe. Right? And in intimacy, what do you want? You want both parties, whoever they are, to feel safe. Because you want more of them. When both parties feel safe in the relationship, when both hearts are safe, it's a natural desire to give more of your heart away. To open up more. Here, come into me, see, right? Come see more of me. Because I feel safe with you. Love is not about dependency. But love does chase away fear. Love does chase away anxiety. So heaven's model is this. Here's a slide of it. Heaven's model is always connection and never distance. Heaven's model is always connection and it's never distance. In other words, it's unconditional. There's nothing that you can do to make heaven change its choice for you. God has chosen to love you. And in his choice for you, what he is saying is, your heart is safe with me. What it's not saying is I'm going to make sure your heart's safe with everybody else. Because we understand that God's not controlling other people's hearts. He's controlling his own. And he has declared his love to you. So he says, your heart is safe with me. Because he wants you to feel safe. He wants to open, and he wants to give you all of himself. That's that love word. That's that, in the Greek, is that agape word. It's that unconditional acceptance word. And God is persistent. He's faithful. He's persistent in his approach. He sees you the same. He doesn't see you based upon circumstances. He sees you from eternity's standpoint. He sees you from the right now of heaven. He doesn't see you in your local process of time as you're progressing and learning and changing and developing and increasing capacities and awarenesses and all that. He sees that process, but when he sees you, he sees that process, but he sees you done with that process. See, from heaven's perspective, you're done with that process. You're already in a process, or you're already in a place of saturation of his presence. You can't get away from that. And so it's the limiting factors of our head was what we're dealing with right now, but from God's perspective, you're already there. So the only difference is us awakening to what's already there. Right? That's the process we're in. We're in the process of awakening to who we already are. We're not working to become something. Okay? All right, so he pursues us, and he defines the floor for us. We're loved. We're valued. We're loved and valued. And so he says to, even he to us, and then us to each other. In this relationship stuff, we can say, though you are very different than me, because I have my love on, because though you are very different than me, I accept who you are. I'm not asking, you don't have to do anything for me to love you because you're not in charge of my love. I'm in charge of my love. I'm in charge of it. And so I choose to love you, and I'm not saying to you, you have to do this or become this or choose this or say this or whatever. You don't have to do a thing in order for me to love you. My choice to love you is unconditional. That's the love that we're looking for. That's the love that we're wanting to live out of. In other words, when two hearts feel safe in a relationship, when there's intimacy in the relationship, where there's safety in the relationship, you get to be you. And I get to be me. And you are free, and I am free. And I accept the fact that I can't control you, and you can't control me. This control thing, obviously you understand that control itself, the only need to control is based out of fear. Fear is the propagator for control. Without fear, control doesn't have any power at all. I can let you be free. You are free in love. So here's a phrase for us to look at. The goal is not to make you into me, to gain control over you, but to build a relationship that is strong enough that we arrange ourselves and we protect our connection. That's a quote from Danny. The goal is not to make you into me or to gain control over you, but to build a relationship that is strong enough that we manage ourselves to protect our connection. See, out of the freedom that we have inside this love exchange that's happening, and this love exchange is happening because I have God's picture for you. I have this value that I'm carrying from heaven, how He sees you. Out of the freedom that I have, I make different choices because I know that some of them may affect you. So my choices now begin to adapt, not because you're requiring me to. I'm not becoming something in order for you to love me. I'm changing my choices in order to protect our connection. Because I value you so much, I want to keep connection with you. And so when I'm around you, when I'm in your presence, when I'm thinking this, one of the stories you might have heard before, but I have a motorcycle, and I'm just so happy that finally we can get the motorcycles out of the garage. But it's like middle of May, but I have a motorcycle, and Kelly, over the years, has struggled with me having a motorcycle because, the motorcycles are more dangerous and stuff like that. And then in these later years, she has had a perspective change on some of that. And so I got a motorcycle, and she says, the only thing I really ask is this. I said, if you can ride a motorcycle, would you please wear a helmet? Just make sure you always have a helmet on. And so I'm going, yeah, okay, no problem. And then a bunch of guys, we do this once a year. We're actually taking a trip in September. Anyone wants to go? We're going to go to the West Coast, go up to 101. But we're going to, on this motorcycle trip, we were on a motorcycle trip with a bunch of guys from the church here. We're down in the Santa Fe area. We pull in, we're getting ready to go get some dinner. And everybody kind of walks out to the bikes, and I'm walking out to the bike, and I'm just about to get on the bike, and I recognize I don't have my helmet on. I don't have my helmet on. I get off my bike, I start going back in, and everybody goes, where are you going? I said, I don't have my helmet on. I don't have my helmet. I thought to myself, here's the thought. Kelly's not around. You're in Santa Fe. She'll never know. And I continued to walk back in the hotel room, got my helmet, put it on, got on the bike, took off for dinner. The deal is, whether I'm with Kelly or without Kelly, the idea is that I'm making decisions with her heart in mind. I'm making decisions with her heart in mind. So that, you know what it would have done in our relationship? If we got back home and somehow a story was told out of jest, out of fun, and we talked about something, and we talked about how the wind was blowing through our hair, or lack of hair, or whatever it is, and we're just kind of, riding, and they had the wind in our face, and it just felt so great. And Brent, man, you look so great on that bike without that helmet. And she went, what would it have done to our trust? What would it have done to that? It would diminish. It would put it at risk, right? And so the idea is when we choose intimacy, when we're choosing relationship with people, we're taking into account what affects them. It's not a matter of whether you agree with it or don't agree with it, whether you think what they're thinking is right or wrong. That's a competitive kind of a thing, right? I don't think you're right, so I'm not going to do it. I'm going to ride without a helmet. Well, what does that do to connection? What does that do to safety? What does that do to the heart, right? So relationships, again, last week we said relationships are either competitive or collaborative, right? So we're in a collaborative relationship. In other words, we're doing this thing together, or we're in competition with each other. And I'm thinking I'm right, so I'm going to do it my way. And so that doesn't help foster trust. It doesn't help foster connection. It actually puts connection at risk. So out of the freedom I have, I make different choices. I'm free. My love is mine, right? I'm the one that's driving the momentum of my choice to love you, my choice to connect with you. And so it's my choice to connect to you, so how do I want that connection to look? I'm telling you, if you want a healthy connection, then you're going to take into account the heart of the other person that you wanted to connect to. See, the Lord's not looking. The Lord is not looking to control us either. It's not His job to manage your relationship with Him. how you manage your relationship with the Lord is in your choice for love. It's in your choice to connect. How will you value his heart? Or how will he value yours? You know, when I grew up in an environment where obedience was a big thing. You know? And obedience or the belt. Huh? How many of you in your lifetime have ever been whipped by a belt? Anybody? We should call 699 or whatever it is for that belt abuse kind of thing. No, but you understand, but even it was kind of normal in our culture that this corporal punishment was kind of normal in our culture, and obedience was seeded into us through fear, wasn't it? I mean, there were good ideas, there were right things that we should be doing, but we were in compliance. We were in compliance out of fear, out of punishment, right? Even so much that even the church itself, over the years, has taken up an idea about God that somehow God is trying to get us into compliance through the fear of punishment. So we have the whole hell conversation, right? We have all the God's going to punish you and this and that, whatever that is. And so that idea has transcended not only the church, but it's transcended even our own lifestyles as humans. And as a child, I remember the belt. I remember the belt. I remember my dad had a station belt, it was a service station belt that had no buckle. And because the belt would go inside, so when you leaned over a car, it wouldn't scratch the car fender. And he would come home, and man, if I was out of line, my mom would say, wait till your father gets home, kind of thing. And then my dad would come home, and he'd go, you know, out of his belt loops, you know, and wrap it around his hand a couple times, get his tongue out like this. These memories are in my head. I might need counseling. So, and you know, he'd say, okay, turn around and stand still. Turn around and stand still. I'm going, whoa, wait. I'm going like, no. You know how that goes. You ever have any kids? When my son did that to me, when I was spanking him one day with a ping pong paddle because I wouldn't whip him with a belt. What's up with that? Anyway, so, and I remember that belt wrapping around my leg, and then the welt that would come up around my leg, and the holes, I could even see the holes for the belt thing on my skin after the whip. And I go, man, you hit my leg, you know? And he said, well, you should stood still. You know, I'm going, what? You couldn't. I look at it backwards, you know, I'm thinking, crazy. But in all that to say is that obedience was compelled by fear. But what if I told you that that's not the way God acts? That's not the way God works. Because God's not trying to control you. The obedience aspect is not obey out of fear. It's this idea of it's an obedience out of love, so to speak. So in other words, I am so aware of who you are and how safe I am with you and how much my heart matters to you that you are saying these things for my benefit, and now my response to you is naturally love out of a place of safety, not out of a place of compulsion, out of manipulation, out of control, because God is not afraid. So why would he need to control? But the cultures we live in foster certain belief systems, and then we begin to impose those cultures and belief systems even over God. So it's not my job to manage your love towards me. And it is my job to manage my love for you. It is my job to manage my love for you. So every choice that I make has your heart in mind. It just has my heart. It has your heart in mind. I'm thinking of things from your perspective. So, cultivating intimacy. This tool, real quick. You can look through this. I'm not going to go through it step by step. But part of that cultivating intimacy, as difficult as it is, just that number one statement, the choice is yours. It's not easy. Intimacy is not easy, but you have to choose to be honest. And I know, as difficult as it is, honesty sometimes will create fear because you don't know what the other person is going to do with what you say. So you already have fear in the relationship. And it might not even be that it's not even their fault. It could be something you're bringing with you into the relationship. Maybe you could never be honest with your mom and dad. Maybe you couldn't be honest. The last time you were honest with your teacher, you got put in the corner. You know, I don't know what it is. But that whole honesty thing, in order for intimacy to exist, there has to be this honesty and this ability to be honest without fear of what that honesty is going to bring. So honesty the I statement, I did this, I said this, I feel this, these I statements, as a receiver of the information and how you manage the other person's heart when they're saying I is really important. Because if they feel like you're going to judge them or condemn them, or they feel like you're going to retreat from them when they say the I statements about themselves, then they're going to limit how much I they bring. So it's not just not one side. Intimacy requires both sides. So intimacy, I have to choose to be honest, but then the receiver has to choose to listen to that in a way that's going to protect the other person's heart. And it's going to foster the other person to bring more of themselves to the table. I'll give you an example of this. This last week, I got a traffic ticket. And I haven't got a traffic ticket in years. I mean years. I can't even count. And I was going through Breck, of course, Breck, right? And I was on my way to a Beauty and the Beast practice at the Backstage Theater. And as I was there, I got on French Street. Don't go on French Street. And I'm coming out of a 45, and I'm coming to a 35, and then I took her left, and I didn't know it was a 20. It went to a 20. It's like parking lot. Can you see I'm a little about it? I mean, it's parking lot speed limit, you know? So I'm going 20 down the street, and of course there's a police officer right there at the intersection coming at me, and he stopped, and so I come up at the intersection, I stop, and I turn right, and I pull up in front of the theater, and I start to get out of the car, and I notice the police is behind me. He says, "Sir, can you step back in the car?" Well, what? You know, so I step back in the car, and of course he comes up, and he says, "You know how fast you're going?" I'm going, "Where? You know, what? I don't even know." I was totally oblivious. I wasn't even paying attention. And I did not see the sign. Of course, the first thing is that I wanted to defend myself. There was no sign nowhere. That's parking lot, you know. The parking lot speed limit. Are you serious? You know, kind of thing. He says, "Well, you know, it's 20 on that street, and you were going 35. You know, 20 to 35 is like, you can't even tell the difference between 20 and 35, right? I mean, I'm trying to defend myself. You understand what I'm saying. But anyway, all that said, went through all that, ended up, I couldn't, pay the ticket. I went back, after the practice, I went back and I went down that street to see that sign. Was that sign really there? Yeah, it was, So I go, okay, well, if it was there, now that's what I was doing. Okay, I'm gone for there. So, but then I got on the phone with Kelly. I said, "Kelly, practice was great, and da-da-da-da, but got a ticket." Her next response would tell me whether or not I was safe with my honesty. You know what she said? "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you got taken." Which was an invitation for more of me. It was an invitation for more of my heart. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't got taken. We got into a little bit of a conversation about it. And her response wasn't condemning. It wasn't, "What are you thinking? How? We can't afford a ticket." She didn't get into any of that. She didn't make me feel bad. She joined me where I was at. She said, "I'm so sorry." That was the right move, Kelly. Woo-hoo! That was the right move. Right? So this intimacy, honesty is important. So the choice is ours. Honesty isn't what you think of the other person's behavior or the impact of their choices. It's the experience you're having with them on a feeling and a need level. That's what it's honesty. We've got to stop judging when people are honest. We want to give them, hold your decision making until later, when they're asking for something from you. When they're asking like, "Hey, let's talk about that. What were your thoughts about that? I'd like your input. I'd like your opinion." Wait for those, then give your opinion. But until then, create a welcoming and a safe place for them to process their heart. And when you do, you'll get more of their heart. How many of you want more of the people that you have a relationship with? You want more of them, not less of them. You want more of them. So be an invitation to that. So join them where they're at and then draw them forward. So when you get into that cultivation tool, intimacy tool, this is going to be very helpful for you guys as you delve into more of that. Okay? All right. Another piece that I want to give you this morning before we leave, I want to talk about honor for a moment. And this has to do with the idea that everybody in the relationship, whether it could be 2 or 4, whatever, but let's just bring it down to a microcosm where it at least takes 2 people for a relationship, right? So inside the relationship, one of the things that's very important in a relationship, a healthy relationship, is for honor to exist. honor. And honor is this. Two powerful people. If you see the other person as less than you, there won't be honor. Two powerful people, you and them, in a relationship, working together to meet the needs of the other. It's an honoring relationship, right? It's honoring. And the result of this is going to be a powerful relationship versus a disempowered relationship. If you view the other person in your relationship as somehow less than you are, or somehow holds a lower value for whatever reason, maybe it was a circumstance, maybe it was a hurt, maybe it was whatever, maybe it's a prejudice of some kind, maybe it's because they're a different race, or maybe it's because they're in a different socioeconomic class, or status, or maybe they're in a different gender, or whatever it might be. Maybe they're not as educated as you are, whatever it is. And if you hold them at a different value than you do yourself, you're going to be in trouble in the connection. It's one of the interesting things. Jesus, or God, and then Jesus reiterated it, but it's the idea that the greatest commandment was what? To love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, right? To love your Maker, to love the one who breathed life into you. And then the second commandment, from the Jewish perspective, they needed to make commands out of it because they were very fear-driven, right? It was all law. It was very much a culture of justice, law, toe the line. And they had a misperception, an incomplete perspective of who God was. And so now we look at this from a place of progressive understanding and theology. We look back and we see that God looks different than what they thought he looked like. He's even better than they thought he looked, right? And so now we look at this perspective and we see that God, the second commandment, love your neighbor as yourself. In other words, have the same value for your neighbor as you do yourself. When you do, that value piece will give you a common place to stand from. So now I don't devalue you. Now, what will be difficult is if I have a low image of myself, guess what I'm going to have of my neighbor? So that's where it kind of breaks down a little bit. And so that's where we go back to the original thing we talked about, where I really have to have God's perspective of people. I want to start there. I'm going to start there. And when I start there, then I can say, I see you. I see you. Remember that clip? I see you. I really see you the way God sees you. Now here's the thing here. John 15:15 says this. You guys were probably waiting to see if this was all going to be ratified by Scripture, right? So now I know, no longer, Jesus says this, no longer do I call you slaves, for the slave does not know what his master is doing, but I have called you friends. For all the things that I have heard from my Father, I have made known to you. There's this place where God is honoring us. He's honoring us. In fact, think about this. I'm going to go off notes for a second, so nobody get upset. When God says He loves me, do you think, it's just kind of a probing question, you don't have to answer, it's kind of rhetorical, but do you think God would ask us to do anything He wouldn't be willing to do Himself? Take that idea and say, okay, when God says He loves us, and He actually tells, hey, love me, love the Lord your God with all your heart. In other words, choose my heart. That's what He's saying. Choose my heart. Choose my heart. And then in the second verse, because I'm choosing your heart. Choose my heart because I'm choosing your heart. In other words, is it possible that when God looks at you, He looks at you with the same value He sees Himself? You go, oh, wait a minute. You're pushing some boundaries there, man. You're talking about that God's putting me on the pedestal. He's putting me at the same value as Himself. It's interesting, the word reconcile in the Scripture, when Christ reconciled the world to Himself, no longer counting their trespasses against them, that word reconcile is the word katasimo, and that katasimo word means of equal value. So when Christ reconciled the world to Himself, when God reconciled the world to Himself through Christ, what God was saying is, I see you with the same value as I do Jesus. And when Father looks at His Son, and the Son looks at His Father, and they see themselves, if you've seen me, you've seen my Father, and they see themselves as one, The Father and the Son already see themselves as equal value. And now God is including us into that same place of equal value. Cool. Play around with that. Okay. And so honor is this. Honor is not about me surrendering all my power to you. That's not what honor is. That's not a healthy relationship. Honor is not that. Honor is about being powerful. And what makes me powerful is my choice. My capacity to choose. Now some people say, well, this choice thing, this free will thing, man, I don't understand. And sometimes people put it in this context of they're actually coming from a place where they really think God's in control of everything and manipulating things. And so they're waiting for God to control other people on their behalf. Whether for their betterment or for their, whatever it be. To protect them, or whatever. And there's this place where if we don't have a proper understanding of what control looks like and where it comes from, and what love looks like, and the idea of choice, the enablement of choice. See, one of the things that I really believe, and I'm coming even to a greater belief system, a greater strength of belief in, is this idea that choice matters so much that God is choosing not to undermine it. Choice must matter so much because God doesn't choose to undermine choice. He continues to let you make your decisions and doesn't make them for you. He also doesn't make the decisions for other people around us. So the idea of choice, the principle of choice, must matter even above a person's choice that might bring me harm or cause me hurt. To honor choice in an individual and not take that choice away is letting that person remain powerful but also responsible for choice. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that dynamic of choice and the dynamic of control, we need a deepening in understanding there. We need a deepening. Because we even have mixed language. We can think one way, but then we undermine it by a thought over here, So it's like some of us are in the mix of transition there. An understanding the power of choice, the power of being powerful, which is all underneath this umbrella of love. And then we have this power to control, to diminish choice, not, wanting to protect people from hurt, and all that, and that's all under this, in control, that's all under this thing of fear. Okay? But God has nothing to do with fear. It has nothing to do with fear. Because fear has to do with punishment, and that's not who He is. Although many people have had a perspective of that and believe that. Okay? So I'm just challenging some of those thoughts. So the idea here is God is inviting us to be co-heirs. We are co-heirs, but He's inviting us to be co-laborers. We're not subcontractors. We're co-laborers with Him. Okay? Romans 8:17 says this. And if children, heirs also now, heirs of God and fellow heirs with Christ, if indeed we suffer with Him, so that we may also be glorified with Him. See, everything that Jesus inherited from the Father, you have inherited. It's yours. Now, you might not be your current experience to be living from that inheritance right now, but it doesn't diminish the fact that it's yours. Everything Jesus has from the Father, you have. Why? Because you are included in Him. You're included. So, in the relationship, we have two powerful people, right? We have two powerful people, and we're going to work in the relationship. Our labor in the relationship is to keep both people powerful. Because I want to keep connection. So I'm going to keep you powerful. How do I do that? By honoring you. By choosing connection. By loving you. Right? And you're going to do the same for me. An interesting thing. We really have to act with less fear and more respect. We really need to act that way. Because when relationships break down, what I'm finding is when relationships break down, there's a missing component. And the missing component is I'm missing information. I need more input. I need more information. And so in relationships then, if I've chosen connection, if I've chosen love, if I've chosen honor, and I still feel there's disconnection, or I still feel like there's a relational breakdown, I'm missing something. I'm missing some information. What's the best way to get some information? Ask a question. So here's this next tool. This tool, and then I think this is about as far as we're going to be able to get today. But this next tool, questioning tool, you guys can refer to this. It comes out of Danny's material again. But asking good questions begins with a purpose. Okay? And when entering a confrontation, and confrontation is not a bad, how many of you have ever thought of confrontation as a bad word? I used to think of it as a bad word. Confrontation, I'm going to have to confront. How many of you like confrontation? Huh? Some of you like it? Okay. But it's really a good, in other words, think of it differently. Think of it as I'm confronting. In other words, I'm coming into the relationship. I come with the right purpose. In other words, I'm coming with my view of God for you. I'm coming with the right purpose. I'm coming with I'm going to protect connection. So I got all that in place. So I'm seeing you from God's perspective. I'm coming to you with connection. And as I enter this engagement with this relationship, I'm missing some information, so I need to ask a question. But I'm going to ask a question with your heart and mind. I don't want to hurt you with my question, but I want to I need some information. So I need permission in the relationship to ask questions, right? In a safe way. So that I'm not felt like, oh, I should never ask the question. Have you ever been in a place like that where you've asked a question before and the person comes at you with a response and it's like, I wish I would have never asked the question. Because somehow you became the enemy? What reality is you touch something very sensitive, and they're not yet able maybe to process that in a healthy way, but I got to keep my love on, I got to keep my honor on, I'm going to keep my perspective of them, and I need new information, I need more information. And so here we are in this place of, I need information, let's gather some information, this information is going to help enable me to protect your heart. My purpose is right, my question's right. Sometimes our attitudes aren't right when we ask, but that's the question asked. The one asking the question needs to check themselves. Wait a minute, what am I coming with? Because ultimately I want the other person to feel safe with me because I want them to open up that information to me, right? And the more information that comes and if there's no rebuttal and there's no diminishing of value, then the intimacy is going to grow and people are going to reveal more. Does that make sense? And there's an art to asking questions. There really is. There's an art to asking questions. Great questions in relationship will clarify. It'll just clarify stuff. All relationships are valuable, but what do you value about your relationship? Those considerations. And then even the declaration of value in the relationships is important. When's the last time you just said to the person that you're in a relationship with, I so value our relationship? This is what I like most about it. I just like this. You don't have to focus on what you don't value about the relationship. Don't focus there. Focus on what you do value about the relationship. And the relationship will grow. The relationship will grow. So honor in relationships. Honor the relationship. So, and then asking the right question. Understanding that in that engagement, the other must have the capacity to hear the question in a right way with a fearless heart. If the other doesn't hear that in a right way with a fearless heart, then that question actually could bring more pain to the relationship. So, are you sensitive to that in your questioning? Are you thinking about that as you enter in? It's not like you're walking on eggshells. Don't do that. But here's just this last thought and we'll be done. But unfortunately, in our relationships, we're not starting from perfection in relationships, in relating to one another. More than likely, if you're like me, you're probably starting with already some broken things in the relationship. There are already some things that you do walk on eggshells around, and you're not totally honest about, and you don't know if that's safe, and in this area my heart doesn't feel good, and in this area it does, so there's always some things that maybe already are in the mix, maybe some sediment that's been stirred up in the water. And so we need to get a filter in there, but in the choice to choose, I choose relationship, I choose connection. we're going to have to get rid of some of the wrong ways of thinking in order to continue to choose one another. But here's the goal of where we're heading. We're heading into a relationship where two people are powerful in the relationship. We're choosing each other's hearts. We're protecting each other's hearts. We're looking for the place where we can be totally honest in the relationship without fear, without condemnation, without judging. How many of you guys would love a relationship like that? Anybody? Just love relationships where you can just you can actually be you without fear. But we're going to grow into those. We're going to grow into those. And the growing may be painful from time to time, because both parties are growing. The person that's pursuing at a certain moment in the relationship is growing, and the person that's receiving in the relationship at that moment is growing. And then at different times, this person's now the pursuer in the relationship, and this person's now the receiver. You understand? It goes back and forth. But are you protecting the hearts of the ones that you're choosing? Okay. I hope so. That's the goal. That's where we're headed. We always want to make sure that our questions include the other and never threaten the other. And you can tell when your question will threaten the other, because they'll go into self-protection. They'll begin to defend. They'll begin to back up. You can sense their heart garden starting to close off. You can sense it. At that moment, say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. That wasn't my intention." Bring correction to the way you were asking. I'm just learning. I'm learning how to ask questions in the right way. My intention is really just to know this, to get closer to you, and so help me. It's collaborative. Relationships are collaborative, so we don't want them competitive. It's not us versus them. It's us with them, right? With me, without me. With me, without me. How do you want your relationships to look? With me, without me. And I hope, my prayer is that you're choosing with me. God's chosen with me when he thinks of you. With me. With me. And it's a boggling thing how the maker of all things could say, "I want you to be with me in this." I don't understand. I can't get my head around it. That's what's so cool, is he's not asking us to get our head around it. He's asking us to get our hearts around it. It's so much easier to get our hearts around things before our heads. Our hearts will know things before our heads can figure them out. But our hearts will know things. So give permission to your heart to know. Okay, I'll give you permission. I don't know why I think this way, but right now I'm feeling this, and I'm thinking this in my heart, but I can't figure it out. It's not logical to me, but that's okay, because I just know it. Some of you carry that kind of surety inside of you. You just know it. Okay. All right. So stand with me, if you will. Let's pray and close.